Okay. Good evening, board members and residents. I'd like to call to order the regular board meeting and public hearing. Yeah, okay. Regular board meeting for Monday, May 12, 2014. Will everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Mr. Witt, will you please take the roll call?
Yes, Mr. Brado?
Here.
Mr. Capral?
Here.
Mr. Swakowski?
Here.
Mr. Tominello?
Here.
Mr. York?
Here.
Mr. Witt here. Mr. Verkowski?
Here. Thank you. Next on our agenda is the approval of the consent agenda, including approval of the regular board meeting minutes of April 28 and the workshop minutes of May 5th, 2014. Approval of the bills in the amount of $708,221.51, and approval to execute the Metro Act permit extension for 5 years ending August 30, 2019.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
All right, we've got a motion by Mr. York. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Mr. Capral. Discussion? Hearing none and seeing no public comment, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Next is the approval of the regular agenda. I'm not aware of any, I'm sorry. There is one additional item. We have a resolution honoring John Switkowski. That would be, I propose item D1. I would add item D2, a resolution proposing Marge Switkowski. That's the only amendment that I'm aware
Make
of.
a motion to approve the agenda with the amendments.
All right, a motion by Mr. York. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Mr. Brado. Discussion? Hearing none and seeing no public comment, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Board. Next is announcements. The first announcement, and I certainly don't want to put any special attention on any announcement, but we do have an important workshop this coming Monday, May 19th, 6:30 p.m. right here. Some of you may be aware that the township received a grant to look at waterfront redevelopment. It's a coastal zone management grant. And we're examining a particular district which is roughly centered at Jefferson and Crocker. So we do have a public workshop looking for public input, and that's a week from today, May 19th, Monday, May 19th, 6:30 p.m. right here. We hope as many people come as are able to see what the planner has done so far and to offer some input. The Harrison Township Public Library is hosting multiple events. All Things Lavender will be held Wednesday, May 21st at 7 p.m. Registration is required and refreshments will be served. Alongside the Better Business Bureau Senior Scene Scam Prevention Seminar presentation will be held Wednesday, May 28th at 5:30 p.m. To register for these library events, please call 586-329-1261 or stop in the library and sign up. Remember that any children attending library events must be accompanied by an adult. Another important announcement, the Harrison Township Environmental Committee is hosting their Boat Town Nautical Coast Cleanup May 17th and 18th. For more information or registration, please call 586-469-4848. We need volunteers for the Macomb Meals on Wheels program. Please contact the Macomb County Community Services Agency Senior Nutrition Program Office at 586-469-5228, or you can send an email mccsa@macombgov.org. And of course, for that event and for all these events, you can also contact the supervisor's office or visit the township website for more information. Any other announcements?
I do have one from the Parks and Recreation Committee.
Okay.
We are having our 10th annual fishing derby on June 7th. Start time is 8 a.m. and it lasts till about 11:30. Prizes for 3 individual age groups, anywhere from 4 to 7. I think it's 8 to 12, and then 13 to 16. And we welcome all youngsters. It'll be held at Lake St. Clair Metro Beach near the boat launch area. And you can find more information on the website. I appreciate everybody coming out.
All right, great.
One other thing, the Beautification Commission on Saturday, July 26th is hosting a garden walk. We have tickets on sale at the treasurer's office. They're $10, or they're doing a VIP, which includes a guided bus tour from house to house, and that the tickets for that are $20. There's a limited number of those, so if you're interested, get those tickets early.
Mr. Chairman, as you know, tonight is my last meeting as a member of the Board of Trustees. I would just like to say that it has been an honor and a privilege to serve the community as a member of this board. During my tenure in office, I've seen a number of positive initiatives that were for the township. Most important, I have to say this, was the addition of the public library. We looked at the addition of a water tank, of a second water feed, so we would never be in the trouble we were that one August. The completion of the hike bike path on Jefferson and South River Road, a single waste hauler, and improving the park situation with the equipment we got from Selfridge. All of these things were positive and added to the community as a whole. I would like to thank Mr. Huth and his firm for all the guidance and legal counsel they've given. It's been a real asset. I'd like to thank Wade Trim, Community Planning, for their assistance in helping to develop this township. To the employees, for their support and assistance, and for the sacrifices that they made during these past economic times. The employees here, all of them, whether they're under union or under contract employees, represent the backbone of this community. To the fire department, I thank them for their support, and I'm sure that they will continue their professional service, and I pray that they be keeping out of harm's way. To everybody on the board, to the community, success in all your future endeavors. Thank you.
Thank you. Perhaps it would be fitting to move a couple items around and perhaps go right to item D1 if the board has no objection. Mr. Witt?
At a regular board meeting of the Board of Trustees for the Charter Township of Harrison on Monday, May 12, 2014, the following resolution was proposed. Whereas John Swakowski has given distinguished service to Harrison Township, and whereas John Swakowski, during his tenure with the township, served as a trustee, board liaison to the Zoning Board of Appeals, member of the Election Commission, the Waste Service Hardship Committee, and the Southeastern Michigan Council of Government delegate. Whereas John Swakowski always sought to advance his skills for the betterment of Harrison Township, taking classes that would expand his knowledge in the role of trustee and Zoning Board of Appeals member. And whereas John Swakowski has shown himself to be an excellent representative of the local community through his commitment and service as trustee for the Charter Township of Harrison, now therefore be it resolved that on behalf of the residents of Harrison Township and the Board of Trustees, we wish to thank John Swakowski for his service to the community and wish him long life and happiness.
All right, we've heard the resolution. Is there discussion or a motion?
Make a motion to approve the resolution.
All right, is there support?
Support.
All right, we've got a motion with support to approve the resolution honoring trustee John Switkowski. Mr. Witt, will you take a roll call vote, please?
Who had the second on that? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Is it Mr. Capral?
Mr. Capel.
Capel.
Yep, I zoomed through that.
No problem. Mr. York?
Yes.
Mr. Capral?
Yes.
Mr. Brado?
Yes.
Mr. Swakowski?
You gotta
You
vote.
have to vote. I think we could probably defer to the
Yes.
Mr. Tominello?
Yes.
Mr. Witt, yes. Mr. Verkowski?
Yes. Motion passes. Thank you, board. Mr. Witt, we have another resolution. Would you read that resolution, please?
Yes. At a regular board meeting of the Board of Trustees for the Charter Township of Harrison on Monday, May 12, 2014, the following resolution was proposed. Whereas Margaret Swakowski has given distinguished service to Harrison Township in the establishment of the Harrison Township Public Library, and whereas Margaret Swakowski served as the president of the library committee since it was created and was extremely active in attracting funding for the volunteer library, whereas Margaret Swakowski will continue to support the efforts of the library committee from afar, and whereas Margaret Swakowski has shown herself to be an excellent representative of the local community through her commitment, dedication, and service on the library committee, now therefore be it resolved that on behalf of the residents of Harrison Township, the Board of Trustees wishes to thank Mrs. Swakowski for her service to the community and to wish her long life and happiness.
All right. Board members, you've heard the resolution. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
All right, we've got a motion by Mr. Tominello, a support by Mr. Swakowski.
There you go.
Mr. Witt, will you please take the roll call vote?
Yes, Mr. Tominello?
Yes.
Mr. Swakowski?
Yes.
Mr. Brado?
Yes.
Mr. Capro?
Yes.
Mr. York?
Yes.
Mr. Witt, yes. Mr. Verkowski?
Yes. Motion passes. Thank you. I trust we can have you deliver that resolution. Thank you. We accept it on her behalf. Okay. Getting back to the order of the agenda, our next item would be item B1 from the Accounting Department, approval to hire an account bookkeeper in the Accounting Department. Mr. Witt?
Yes, as a result of the promotion in the treasurer's office, we had a vacancy come up in the accounting department for our account bookkeeper position. The posting for the period ended on this past Wednesday, May 7th, and unfortunately, I wasn't able to talk to the individual that applied until today, so that's why I wasn't able to get anything out to you guys. I just wanted to talk to the person before I passed it out. But Miss Catherine Firmbach, who works in our water and sewer department, applied for the job. She appears to have all the qualifications, and I think she'll do well. So at this time, I would be recommending the promotion to account bookkeeper in the accounting department, effective upon the retirement that sort of puts us into effect, subject to the terms and conditions of the contract.
And that is,
Make that motion.
there, I'm sorry, I was just gonna say, just recalling, I think that promotion is subject to a probationary period per the contract.
Yes.
Correct? Okay. Sorry.
I'll make a motion to promote Catherine Firmbach to the position of account bookkeeper in the accounting department, effective
I think the date of retirement
the date of retirement
of Miss Bradley.
from the treasurer's office.
Okay. We've got a motion by Mr. York. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Mr. Swakowski to promote Ms. Catherine Firmbach to the account bookkeeper position in accounting, subject to the terms in the contract, of course. Is there any discussion? Hearing none and seeing no public comment, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Does this lead to another possible motion, Mr. Witt?
Well, I think it creates the potential to create a vacancy in water and sewer, and that is the entry-level position, so it's probably unlikely that we'll have an external applicant in that, or an internal applicant for that position unless there's an immediate transfer. But we'll most likely end up with that type of position available.
So it would appear there's a need to, for a motion to post internally and advertise externally for the position of administrative clerk in the water and sewer department.
If there's no
Yeah.
applicant.
Yeah, and I think Mr. Witt's point is valid. There's little likelihood that we will have an internal applicant. There are only two employees, and at this point, I don't know that anyone's expressed an interest in that position, but there is a need for us to post. But in order to get the clock moving, I think it's worthwhile for us to concurrently post internally as well as externally for that position, to keep the process moving along. Obviously, that would lead to a recommendation, that would be brought back to the board at a later date. Is there such a motion?
I'll make a motion to post, advertise, and interview for an administrative clerk position with the township, first internally and then with the external.
Support.
All right. We've got a motion by Mr. Witt with support by Mr. York to post for the administrative clerk position in the Water and Sewer Department, both internally and externally, with a recommendation to come back before the board. All right. Discussion, board members? Hearing none and seeing no public comment, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next on the agenda is item C1 from the clerk's office regarding reappointments for some Metro Park enforcement officers. Mr. Witt?
Yes, we received a request from Lake St. Clair Metro Park to reappoint their 3 ordinance officers, Mrs. Laura Cucchiera, Mr. Matthew Carr, and Mr. Ryan Bozich, as ordinance officers for Lake St. Clair Metro Park for a 1-year term to expire May 31st, 2015. These appointments allow the officers to ticket for township infractions within the Metro Park boundaries.
All right.
I make a motion to reappoint Ms. Laura Cucchiera, Mr. Matthew Carr, and Mr. Ryan Bozich as ordinance officers for Lake St. Clair Metro Park, each for a 1-year term to expire May 31st, 2015.
There's a motion by Mr. York. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Mr. Tominello. Discussion, board members? Hearing none and seeing no public comment, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Next on the agenda, item C2, reappointment to the Beautification Commission. Board members, we've received an application for reappointment to the Beautification Commission from Mrs. Susan Keene. Mrs. Keene has been an incredible asset to the Beautification Commission, and I would recommend her reappointment for a 2-year term to expire March 26, 2016.
Make a motion to reappoint Mrs. Keene to the Beautification Commission with a 2-year term to expire March 26, 2016.
All right.
Support.
All right, we've got a motion by Mr. Witt with support by Mr. Brado for Mrs. Keene's reappointment, and we can't say enough about the wonderful things that they do. There's so many parts of our township that look fabulous because of their volunteer labor. They do a great job.
I was gonna say, she's such a vital part. You see her out there working on they're in the Memorial Gardens all the time. We should just make it like an indefinite appointment.
Yeah, we're certainly very
But
fortunate.
then she
to
doesn't
have-
have an opportunity to say she
Yeah,
doesn't want to put back in for it.
that's right. Any other discussion, board members? Hearing none and seeing no public comment, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. We covered items D1 and 2 at the beginning of the meeting. So next on the agenda is item E1 regarding an allocation of up to $10,000 toward the cost of sidewalk maintenance. Board members, in the supervisor's office, I've noticed an increase in contacts from residents inquiring about sidewalk repairs. The majority of our sidewalks in our township are in the right-of-way, which causes some confusion as to who is responsible for repairing the sidewalks. The Macomb County Department of Roads does not repair or maintain sidewalks, and we do not have any language in our ordinance that specifically enforces the maintenance of sidewalks. There are times when we're repairing sections of sidewalk due to water main breaks, and our Water and Sewer Department does that work. I would like to propose allocating up to $10,000 for minor repairs to sidewalks. The work would be done in conjunction with other repairs by our water and sewer personnel. There have been times, for example, that the Water and Sewer Department might repair a section along the bike path. I think it was last year we had a culvert that collapsed, and the men were able to go out and perform the work under the $2,000 spending cap. And a majority of the work that would be done under this really would fall under that $2,000 spending cap. My concern is I don't want to spend $800 or $1,200 at a time taking on these kind of projects without the knowledge of the board and the approval of the board. I'm going to give, say, one example right now. There's a sidewalk that's parallel to Crocker and it passes underneath the I-94 overpass. The land there is ultimately owned by MDOT. They don't maintain the sidewalk. It's not a significant portion, but right now it's really an uneven section that should be corrected. But without us taking on some of those responsibilities for minor repairs in local areas, we're just kind of ignoring the problem. So I'd like to give this a try to see if you know, little at a time, we can make repairs locally and improve our sidewalk system.
So there's two, when I looked at this, there's really two sides of this coin. So we're not talking like a sidewalk in front of my house. We're talking more of like the bike path sidewalks and things of that nature. Because when I first read this, I'm like, well, the homeowner's responsible for their sidewalk.
Correct. Yeah, there are local areas throughout the township. Currently, I would think of two areas. Both are walkable sections of the sidewalk to schools. One is in the South River area where, you know, kids would walk on their way to South River School. And then this one that I mentioned is kind of a walkable area to Graham Elementary. We're not talking about a construction of new sidewalks. We're talking about localized areas. And we're talking about a time when Mr. Axtell may say that he's got 3 areas where they broke up some concrete and they need to do repairs to that concrete. And so he's going to set up a handful of his men to go out and perform that work on a particular day. The idea would be if you're going to prep 2 or 3 areas, if we know about 1 or 2 other areas that are in need of repair, to go out, set them up, saw them up, frame them up, and then have them poured and finished while you're already set up doing the work. So that's really the idea behind it. At this point, I don't know, how far $10,000 will go. I mean, we're halfway into the year now, but I would think a majority of this work is going to occur in maybe a 6-month, well, not even, probably the next 4 months, something like that. But just kind of in conjunction with some other repairs.
Part of the purpose of this, the way I understood it, is just sort of because the water and sewer fund is an enterprise fund, we can't expend water and sewer funds for them to do this kind of work. That's why we need to allocate general fund money so that way they're getting paid from the appropriate source.
Right. So we'll say that, let's say that 2 weeks from now, the water and sewer department says, well, they're going to go out and repair a section of sidewalk that they had to bust up in January in the process of repairing a water main break. That repair can be done with water and sewer dollars, the restoration work. But if a block away there's a section of concrete on a sidewalk that's cracked or heaved or missing, and they say, well, we can do that at the same time, it's really not appropriate that we would use the enterprise funds for the water and sewer department to fund that work. It really would be from a separate fund, and ultimately would be, based on our structure right now, a general fund expenditure. So when they're done, accounting says, all right, we had a certain amount of materials and labor to do the water and sewer portion, but we have this additional section of concrete that we repaired or replaced, and it would come from general fund. So they just charge it to 2 different line items. I'm just proposing that we fund that instead of doing that $800 at a time and not making it an official, board policy or a board motion. We can try it out for 2014, see how it works, and if after a year, if it produces more problems than solutions, then we can take another look at it. But I think if we're able to do a little bit here and there, it'll ultimately lead to improved sidewalks and less hazardous areas in the township.
And if it doesn't work out, at least we know we had some sidewalks repaired.
That's right. Yeah. Well, I mean, if it becomes problematic, then we strike it at this point. it's really in response to calls I get from folks from time to time saying, can you repair this, can you repair that? In some cases, it happens to coincide with work. So if I direct the water and sewer department to go take a look at that and they spend $800, it's well within the responsibility that I have. But at some point, if I'm gonna say that we're gonna do this on a repetitive basis, I feel like it should be approved by the board. I don't wanna, in other words, I don't wanna spend $8,000, $800 at a time. I think that's the misinterpretation of the $2,000 spending limit.
Mr. Supervisor, I'll make a motion to allocate up to $10,000 toward the cost of sidewalk maintenance for 2014 and direct the supervisor and engineering services director to work on identifying and scheduling repairs.
We've got a motion by Mr. Capperell. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Mr. Brado. All right, I see there is some public comment. Is there any further discussion, or can we open the floor for public comment? Good.
Bill Serville, resident. You answered most of the points that I was going to bring up concerning the sidewalks being, sidewalks in most of the subdivisions are the responsibility of the homeowner, just as is their driveway approach and the berm between the actual pavement and the sidewalk is. I just have one point to make. I haven't been down that piece of sidewalk that goes along Crocker and ultimately goes under the freeway, but I will tell you this. When the UVerse was putting their underground pipes in there, they replaced quite a bit of it. I told VJ at the time they poured concrete in inclement weather that was below freezing. And I told VJ at the time it wasn't gonna hold up. So I'd suggest you call AT&T and see if you can get any traction there from them. It's their fault that it's no good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Linda Karczewski, residents. I'm glad you're fixing that because you get a lot of middle school and high school children that are walking there. And now they walk into the street, And when I drive the bus, I could see this, so I'm glad you're fixing that. But now that you brought that up, I have asked you before, maybe in our ordinance, we should have a sidewalk. Look into St. Clair Shores, how they do theirs to repair the sidewalks. There's a lot of businesses that the sidewalks, condominiums, you go right down Crocker. You cannot get all the way down Crocker because when you come up to the last condominium that's up there, and just before Linda's place, it's owned, that strip of land is owned by the boat people. They have no sidewalk there. So where are the people going? They're going into the street, and you get a lot of seniors that are going over to Linda's place, Terrace to eat, and they take their little motor or wheelchairs, and they go into the street because there is no sidewalks there. The same thing you get right on Jefferson between Ballard and the spillway. Again, there's no sidewalk. Where are the people walking? In the street. You have the old fishing places. Now it's a boat repair place right there on Jefferson. Where does the cars park? Right across the sidewalk. The businesses are not keeping up with the sidewalks. You have sidewalks now, excuse me, mostly on the main streets. We have no ordinance how to repair them, to keep them up, to make them do the repairs. You're bringing this up. Let's get this. You have went over the ordinance how many times now? In the last 10 years, how many times have you rewrote those ordinances? Add them. You're not doing anything about the sidewalks. Have someone go out there. You can ask the residents. They'll tell you where these bad sidewalks are. Let's get them fixed. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other public comment, we'll close the floor for public comment, move back to board comment. I'll say that the majority, if not all of the sidewalks that the resident just mentioned are in the waterfront redevelopment district. And one of the goals that we're presenting and we're asking the planner to help us with is a more walkable area. So hopefully those comments might be well suited for next Monday's meeting, because we have those same concerns. We'd like to see that section of the township more walkable. Regarding the sidewalk at Crocker, there is actually it's actually not failed concrete. There's a section of concrete that's settled next to a section that's heaved in conjunction with a manhole cover. So there's some movement there. There may be some other areas, but I know the area that was brought to my attention was due to some heaving. So, and again, we've had a pretty difficult record-setting winter, so I know that's contributed to some of these problems as well. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, we've got a motion by Mr. Capra with support by Mr. Brado to allocate up to $10,000 toward the cost of sidewalk maintenance for 2014 and direct the supervisor and engineering services director to work on identifying and scheduling repairs. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Board. Next on our agenda is item 2 regarding an AT&T contract. Board members, our contract with AT&T for telephone service expired in 2012. We solicited quotes from several companies. Ultimately, Comcast was awarded our telephone service based on their low cost. During the process of switching our service from from AT&T to Comcast, we determined that the service that the fire department receives couldn't be switched due to the way they receive their emergency calls, ringing in multiple buildings and so forth. The Comcast folks were unable to give that specific detail of service. As a result, we switched all of our phone service except the phone service with the fire department to Comcast, and currently AT&T is still the provider for our 2 fire stations. The process of working with AT&T had been lengthy. We've talked to different folks about getting that back under contract. Most recently, Kelsey Lee has been the representative that I've worked with. AT&T has standard pricing that they offer to municipalities through MyDeal. MyDeal is a consortium of municipalities within Michigan, and if you join that organization, then you qualify for certain discounts. So instead of AT&T negotiating a discounted rate with every community, they establish one rate and they offer it through MyDeal. So we joined MyDeal. It's $240 a year to belong to that organization. And they've given us an estimate, which was lower than what we were paying prior to the expiration of the contract. So we're looking to execute a 3-year contract with AT&T for the phone service. Originally, their estimate was for $422. Board members, you know that I had distributed a revised estimate that was just slightly under $1,000 because there were some $51 charges for 10 lines that were omitted from the first estimate. The previous cost was, it depends on how many phone calls that we make in the course of a month, but it was, I don't think there was a month in the last, from 2011 to 2012 where we weren't over $1,400. So we were at $1,400 plus monthly. This service comes out to be about $1,000 a month for that same service. Unfortunately, one of the difficulties with this is, unlike a typical competitive bid process, AT&T has given us some bits and pieces of this. And ultimately, I believe that once we're in a position to sign a contract, we'll have a definite quote. So at this point, I'm asking for the board's approval for a contract with AT&T for a 3-year period. At this point, their estimate to us is $1,000. But I would like to get that contract from them, have Mr. Huth review that contract before we execute it. One of the things that's difficult about this phone service is when you look at your bill, there's an awful lot of extra charges for taxes and service fees and things like that. So ultimately, I'm looking for approval to approve this contract. I've got an estimate that's less than $1,000, but ultimately, I still want Mr. Huth to review that final contract when offered to us before we execute it.
I'll make a motion to authorize the supervisor to execute a 3-year contract with AT&T for telephone service at the 2 fire stations, subject to the review of the township attorney.
All right, we've got a motion by Mr. Witt,
Support.
support by Mr. York. It's also worth noting, we did have a little discussion on the whole process of modernizing the phone system. The reality is, 3 years from now, we may find that the fire authority that we're investigating may prove to be a good idea. We may look at increased technology in countywide dispatch. So there seems to be a logic in just taking what we have and extending it for 3 years instead of looking at a larger and more global solution that could be just replaced if we do change our dispatch. So just wanted to mention that. Any more discussion? Seeing none and seeing no public comment, we've got a motion to authorize the supervisor to execute a 3-year contract with AT&T for telephone service to the 2 fire stations, subject to review by the township attorney. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. We've got 2 other items on the agenda, and I believe the attorney may have some advice regarding a closed session. I don't know if it would be appropriate now to discuss that.
Mr. Verkes, if that was directed to me, I believe it would be appropriate. My understanding is that Ms. Hardcastle has not sought closed session discussion regarding her matter. If that's the case, that needs to be an open session. However, closed session would be appropriate for 2 purposes permitted under the statute. One is discuss a written opinion by counsel, and secondly, to discuss ongoing litigation in the case captioned as Hardcastle versus Harrison Township. So it's procedurally up to you. You could have public comments now and do that portion of the meeting if you didn't want to inconvenience folks. You then go to closed session and then come back to open session. I won't even tell you the other choice because everyone's shaking their head. Let's do it that way. So,
Yeah, I think that ultimately that would be best, so that anyone who's here for a general public comment wouldn't have to wait till all of that. So I guess what we'd be talking about is public comment, closed session, and then open session for item E3,
That's correct.
correct? All right,
Okay.
I make a motion to amend the
agenda,
agenda.
all right.
Support.
All right, it's been moved and supported to amend the agenda as discussed. Any discussion, board members? Hearing none and seeing no public comment, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. As a result of that amendment, we'll now open the floor for public comments. If there's anyone here that wishes to address the board or make any public comments, they're granted 5 minutes to do so.
I'm Carol Wolf, the current president of the Library Advisory Board, and I just wanted to publicly thank Marge Switowski for all her help, all her inspiration to all the volunteers. We wouldn't be where we are today if it wasn't for her motivation and desire to have a library for our community. So on behalf of all the volunteers, I would like to say thank you publicly to Marge for all her help.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bill Serville, resident. On the same note, when I first was appointed to the Cable Committee, Marge was on there then, and it wasn't in the resolution, so maybe you weren't aware of that fact, but she was also a member of the Cable Committee for some number of years. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I know, I think also she served in supervisors.
There's a series of Marge Swikowski resolutions through time based on whatever role was needed that she stepped up to. Because I know there was one after she was supervisor and when she came off the cable committee. So there's a couple of old resolutions there. So
Great.
we didn't miss them. We just got them earlier. So
Right, because Jack had served on planning commission also, so
Yeah.
similar thing. If there are no other public comments, we'll close the floor for public comment. And then we'd be looking for a motion and
Mr. Chairman, just, under board comments, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that, Marge couldn't be here today because being as finicky as she is, you know, naturally, she has to clean the house completely before the movers take everything out, so, but she wanted me to express her thanks and her, you know, good wishes to the community, and especially to the ladies and all the volunteers of the library. She wishes you good luck.
Tell us the truth, you know, she just didn't want to come here and cry.
That could be too.
Are there any other board comments?
Are we doing the board comments right now or after? Well, I just wanted to say, this is board comment, I just wanted to say it's been a pleasure serving with you for the last 6 years, 5.5 years, and I wish you well in your
Thank you.
endeavors.
Thank you, thank you.
Obviously, Jack's been a great mentor for me, and he helped this board a great deal, I think, throughout his tenure. And he's taught me a lot with all the different inroads and outroads for the political area. And he's been, him and Marge have been fantastic mentors. So I'm gonna miss him. I hope you open a Facebook page, because we're gonna need something.
Thank you.
Yep, for certain, it's been great serving with you, Jack, and I don't know that there's anything I can say that hasn't been said, but I learned an awful lot from you, and we'll miss you. It's a tough seat to fill, whoever sits there. It's a
Absolutely.
tough standard to measure up to.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Jack, you and I go back about
Yes,
approximately
yes, we do,
13
Larry.
years,
Yes,
both Planning Commission and ZBA. We, with our backgrounds, we fed off each other, and hopefully we made a better community out of it, but
we learned a lot from
my
you, Larry.
next door buddy, I'm
Yes,
gonna miss you.
thank you.
Jack, I'd also like to thank you for all your help. Even on all the other committees and everything that you're with, you found time to help us with Parks and Rec events and March
You're
as
gonna
well.
need somebody else to make hot dogs at the fishing derby.
We need a new shop.
Thinking about that.
So
That'd be Ken.
we're in the market for a new hot dog shop. But the community is definitely, we're all gonna miss you guys. Fantastic neighbors. Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you.
And you guys came by and stopped in the office, and I said it then, and I'll say it now. Marge has to figure out a way to send me pierogies from Florida.
Yeah, she's already,
So
yeah.
that's the important thing.
Well-
Thank you guys for everything that you've
Okay.
done. It really made a difference.
Thank you, Adam.
All right, if there's no other comments, we'd be looking for a motion to enter into closed session. And the two items, Mr.
There'd be a roll call vote on a motion, please, to enter into closed session to discuss attorney written opinion and case captioned as Hardcastle versus Charter Township of Harrison.
All right,
So moved.
all right.
Support.
We've got a motion by Mr. York with support by Mr. Swikowski. Discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Witt, will you do the roll call, please?
Yes, Mr. York,
Yes.
Mr. Swakowski,
Yes,
Mr. Brado,
Yes.
Mr. Capral,
Yes.
Mr. Tominello,
Yes.
Mr. Witt, yes, Mr. Verkowski.
Yes. All right, motion passes.
7:45.
Yep, 7:45.
It's hot.